Yeah, I signed a waiver
Okay.
and all
That
that.
makes
He said he was gonna get it
We
over there.
appropriated all the
Good.
money. Next
Alright.
Monday, you'll get to see all the
Yeah.
appropriations and stuff.
We'll call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order at 7 o'clock on the 7th of November. We'll take attendance. Mr. Miller,
Present.
Mr. Janik,
Here.
Mr. Van Truen,
Here.
Mr. Bukovac, Mr. Goodell,
Here.
Mr. Winarski.
Here.
Ms. Chair is present. Mr. Dietrich will not be here tonight, and he was notified, made an official notification. Mr. Goodell.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse President Dietrich.
Mr. Miller.
Second, please.
There's a motion and a second to excuse Mr. Dietrich. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion is carried 7-0. Mr. Dietrich is excused. We have two items tonight, A16-49 and A16-50. I'm going to reverse the order of those since we do have someone here in the audience who's going to be asked to speak on behalf of A16-50. So I'm going to call that one first. A16-50 is an ordinance authorizing and directing the Safety Services Director to lease to own a 47-foot Versalift VST-47-1 for the Electric Department at a cost not to exceed $150,000. Mr. Jeffries, you submitted that request. Would you care to comment?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mrs. Chairman. We have this request in from the Electric Department as it is in front of you. We've got a couple of pretty old pieces of equipment there that are up for replacement. One is a bucket truck and a material handler. The bucket truck is the Versalift, and that's the one that we're going to have before you tonight. You also have attached some financing information. We're looking at a lease to own on this. We're looking at the option 1, which is the 5-year plan. It's got an interest rate of 2.82%. There are some specifications there. I won't go over those. I will let you all know that Mr. Zabel is here, Joe Zabel is here from the Electric Department. If you do have any questions, other than what I brought up to you.
Okay, Mr. Zabel, would you mind going up to the microphone so we can get you on, and just state your name and your position?
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, my name is Joseph Zabel, and I'm electric foreman for the city of Amherst.
Thank you very much, sir. Do we have any questions for Mr. Zabel?
Also a resident.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Miller.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Mr. Zabel, good to have you back.
Sure.
There's a fax in here that's dated 1/14/2007, then another above it says fax 6/22/16. Are these the rates from 6/22/16, or were we able to get the same rate as 2007? Because I noticed up here we have 2-page fax, and if that is the amount, because I read on the letter to you, it said pricing on new bucket truck. Please inform the council or utility board that these prices are only good to be updated our state STS contract in late August. They drag it out at about 3% to the overall price. That will cover the new contract pricing. So is this the new contract pricing after August of 2016, or is this, did they hold to that earlier?
From what I understand, talking with Bill Sessa, the salesman on that, we had gave him our intentions of replacing this truck early on. From what I understand, they were going to hold that.
Wonderful.
We did for the add. We just in case we did add the 3% to what is in front of you, in case that price isn't held. So the extra money's there just in case.
So so this may not be the actual
That
price.
will be the price.
Okay. Great, thank you. That's all I have for you.
Okay, I have Mr. Goodell, then Mr. Winarski, and Mr. Van Truen. Anybody else want to come out? Okay, Mr. Goodell first.
My question would be more towards the Safety Service Director. Is this something that we would need to move through quickly, or is this just a regular, put the emergency on it?
I guess, Joe, I mean, do we need this truck as soon as possible?
Yes, I prefer.
There's your answer.
Is there, so, and you're saying there's a safety issue with this truck?
And it's an order issue, so the sooner the better.
All right,
And I would like to make a motion to pass this to the floor of council with the emergency clause.
okay. Is there a second? Mr. Winarski?
I'll second that, and at some time like to ask a few questions.
Okay, I have you on the list to comment. Mr. Kukuki, do you have a comment that's immediately relevant to
I
this
can wait till
motion?
Mr.
Or do you have?
Winarski's done. I
Hmm?
can
Okay,
wait till Mr. Winarski's
okay,
done.
fine, so you can go in the queue, okay, fine. All right, Mr. Goodell, do you have anything further?
No, I'm finished, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Winarski?
Well, thank you. So this is state pricing. I'm assuming this doesn't have to go out to bid. This is what we consider a state pricing or whatever that would be called. What's the advantage of an option one versus just writing a check and buying it outright? What the lease versus just outright purchase?
2.8% is a pretty low interest rate, and it's helped keeping our fund balance at a acceptable level, so we're not burning all that money all at once.
I was just wondering if there was like an additional warranty or anything that followed with that.
It's strictly
just buying
financial
over
to keep
time,
our
the
fund
advantage
balance at an acceptable level.
Okay. All right. Mr. Zabel, I know nothing about these trucks. Is this everything you're looking for? Is there something you'd like to add to here? Or, I mean, are you comfortable this is going to be the truck for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's the number one seller in this line of work, that package. And of course, we could have went a lot more further on the package, but we kept it to the bare bones and what we thought we needed.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That ended my questions.
Very good, Mr. Winarski. Mr. Van Trulen?
What happens to the old Versalift?
Egos, we'll sell it.
The trade-in price was very minimal.
So we'll sell it.
Thank you. Mr. Kukuka?
No question's been answered.
Okay, very good. Are there any further questions or comments?
We currently, over the last 5 years, we've stuck in, $25,000 plus. That's not including the time running it down, back and forth to Ashland, and that's not including in-house. And in 2011, we had to redo all the cables, which is periodically on the trucks, which was an additional $15,000 back then. Currently, we take our trucks to Altech down in Ashland, and this company is out of Circleville, and after 15 years, they refused to work on a truck of that brand that old. So now the trip is twice as far, or we can go to Fort Wayne, Indiana. So we use that truck as
Long as you could.
much as we could. And now I believe the expenses will just get too great. The cable's are gonna need redone in the next short term.
Mr. Kukuka?
Thank you. What account does this, does the payment come out of?
Electric revenue account.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Mr. Kukuka?
I just have a procedural question for you. When I needed the emergency on the ULGF and the ULGRF ordinance or resolution, it wasn't on there and it had to be added. And I didn't know if you needed to add an emergency to this agenda request then.
I don't know, I'm gonna ask the law director, is it appropriate, since this is a council meeting, or this is a committee meeting, to do, like we're planning to do the proposal is to pass this on the emergency without a second motion to add the emergency and then send it to the floor.
Well, we're in the committee phases. I mean, I think we could,
We had to do it online in the committee phase.
we had to like kick it back.
No, we had to have a separate motion to add the emergency to my submission, and that's all I'm asking is, doesn't this have to do that same process?
Or did we do?
Because the
two
submission
more?
doesn't have to.
I don't know if that was not, I don't know if that was necessary. I mean, quite honestly, we're at the phase where we could add the emergency and set it on the council
And with
I
one
understand
motion-
where we're at.
With one motion.
with one motion. And I apologize for not catching that
Yeah.
fast, but I don't know why that.
That's why I was just asking, I didn't know if we needed to still do that, that's all I was
Yeah,
asking.
and I apologize too, because that must have been in my committee and to whatever degree that created a problem. That didn't hold that up, did it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay,
No,
good.
we got that.
Okay, all right. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a point of order, then, we do have on this, sending it to the floor council, we are gonna send it with emergency,
That
so
is-
that will
that
be
is
in the wording. Okay, so I know what I'm voting on, yes.
That is correct.
Thank you, that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? All right, Mr.
Sit down.
Mr. Zabel, you can speak.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion is carried with a voice vote of 7-0. Take to the floor council with. Okay, thank you very much. The next item we have is the 2017 interim budget with the emergency. And that was submitted by Mayor Costello and Auditor Kukuka. Mr. Costello.
What you have before you is the interim budget. It takes us through the first part of the year. I will, once we have our carryover and final numbers, I'll get you the final budget early in next year. If you notice, there's Fs and there's Ps. The Ps are for partial years. Most of the salaries and wages are partial years. We only have to get through April, I believe. Is that when this?
Till March.
Yeah, March or April. Pretty similar, almost exactly last year. There's a couple changes. One is in the parks account. I actually added one more line item. I really want to, we have the regular park employees and we have the pool employees, and I just want to look at those two a little bit more closely. That way the pool manager knows what kind of wages they have available, so I made an actual line item for the pool wages. Out of the cable account, we added a wage position for IT purposes. I think it's time where our city's going to need an IT person, and this fund will, this will fund that. Also, we added a line item for citywide IT, technical purposes. And we typically would just use the capital outlay, so that's why you'll notice that the capital outlay line item is quite a bit less than last year. We had a big project this year that we didn't completely fund yet, but I did lower the capital outlay. Building department has about $35,000 extra in its capital outlay. It's time to buy them a vehicle, so I think the building inspector will do a good job picking a vehicle well within that budget. And a couple other just small items here and there, but those were the most significant changes. Again, this just needs to get us through till March.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will do my best, council, to stay under that 5-minute time, so it'll all depend on how much time's yielded back for answers or questions, but I'll just go page by page if you would, Mr. Mayor. We have a 216 budget, I'm going to assume is the transition adjustment from our past chief, Northeim, to pay and finish payments there to our new chief, is that correct? And that would be first page under Fire Department General Fund 1,252,111.
Correct.
Okay. Second page, if you flip the page there. Our fire department EMS, that's just paid on by call, is that correct? That's why it's full not partial.
What,
for
what-
wages.
where do you?
That would be 1,003 under fire department EMS general fund, 1,352,113.
Okay,
Is that correct? It's just paid by call, not partial? That's why there's not a partial on wages there?
it was just such a small amount that we didn't change it. It wouldn't have made too much of a significant difference, so I just didn't lower it.
The same page, building inspector general fund, I noticed partial. Are we expecting these budgets for all these wages and salaries to be within 2 or 3% is what when it comes to budgeting, is that kind of the goal?
That should be the whole,
Should be the whole.
ask me's been settled, police and fire had, police hasn't, so
So it all
it
relies on
should be very close to that.
that same page, I did notice you added a new line item, and I appreciate you letting us know that there's a new line item. Under building inspector, there'd be 104,152,501, and that is for 35. There's a truck, I just recall seeing it recently. Was that turned over by Murphy? Our utilities, or is that truck, how old is that truck that it's getting replaced already?
It's pretty old, and we did some estimates on the body work, and it was $6,000 or $7,000 to get the body work done, because the panels underneath are starting to rust, and we really want to, our building inspector should have a nice vehicle, and he should have a good appearance when he pulls into a place, so we don't want it to be rusting bad.
Okay.
I guess maybe I didn't follow your question completely.
I was just, well,
That one has been passed down, that truck had, I don't know the age of it. to be
Okay,
honest
so that
with
truck's
you.
been passed down from
That truck
utilities.
has been passed down.
And then that truck that he currently has is gonna head where, do you know? or
That'll
do
go
you-
to eGov.
Okay, that'll be EGOV and won't be put into any of the other departments?
I don't see any further use for it.
Okay. And then, I looked down here on the same page under Mayor's Office General Fund. I noticed that we've got, I always look for changes, and you probably got aware of that with me. I look for adjustments in 2014 and 2015. For health insurance, we went from 1K to, for both, budgeted for both years, and then for 2016, we went to 14.5. What is the expectation for the 22 on that?
Gwen quoted that number. I don't know if, I'm under the family plan, and I
Okay.
don't think that was accounted for last year.
The previous
So I
mayor
don't
was
think
not
I was
taking
completely covered. So
Okay, so
this
that-
year, that's family plan, and, like I said, last year with the budget, Mayor Taylor didn't take insurance.
So that's just
why
the
the
adjustment
jump
there.
the first year.
Okay. And then I noticed also, travel has gone from 0 from 014 to 015.
Mayor Taylor didn't take mileage. I've been keeping track of my mileage on my own personal vehicle. I haven't decided if I'm gonna submit it yet. I probably will.
Okay.
But that's there just in case I do. I drive quite a few meetings out of town and
Okay.
keep track of my mileage on a form every day, and if I do submit that, that's what's gonna pay that.
And then telephone has gone from 2 to 3. Is that something, is there adjustment, is our CenturyLink adjusted our,
More
Your mayor's
internet
office.
access, I think you had asked for more internet access for, and I think that's what is gonna cover that.
and I wanted to make sure that was not coming out, was that coming out of yours or coming out of telephone for council? I didn't see an adjustment in the city council budget, so I'm assuming that increasing for the whole entire city hall
That
was
phone
coming
bill
out of yours.
that phone bill that comes in on, I think, is on my line. That could change next year when we have the technology upgrade. That might all be different.
And I do appreciate
That's our
it.
best guesstimate.
And I do appreciate on behalf of council and our council clerk for allowing that increase in Meg for her to. do
And remember,
her
these
job.
are just
So thank you.
estimates to get us through. All these numbers
Right.
could change
Sure.
with the final budget.
The Safety Service Director General Fund, flipping the page, it's 107,252,304 contract and professional services, or that was a big drop there. We just,
Contract negotiations were this year. They're not gonna be next year.
okay. And that was the biggest, and who do we use outside of our,
We use several firms we get information from.
so that's.
And that's not just, attorneys, it's other contracts and professional services, also the cleaning,
Mhm.
different things that's within the building.
I noticed that if you flip the page over to Treasurer's Office, I noticed that we went from a final budget up to an interim, but I also noticed that you moved part-time wages has gone
You
from
passed
26,800.
legislation to make their part-time employee full-time, so it switched.
Okay.
Their part-time employee to the full-time line.
And then, and that's not because of increased training. All right, I got that. Moving on, next page, under City Hall General Fund. Repairs and maintenance, we had an 04 was 7, or 05, excuse me, 2015 was 7K, 2016, 19, and 2017. And now, of course, we don't have end numbers for 2016, but did we hit 19 on that? Is there a lot of upgrades that are going on with the city hall that,
There was quite a bit needed done. There was leaks in the roof. There was, the hallways got painted, some of the remodeling in the offices. Not, you know, it's just
okay,
repairs and maintenance that needs done.
okay. So I'm just looking to see what the increases are.
That
if
one's
there's a
decreasing
substantial-
next year. If
Right,
you
there-
notice, that decreases next year.
Right, but it's up $8,000 from budget
You asked
14
that
to
question
15.
last year, and I answered that.
So we're still seeing more upgrades that are coming, in addition to the citywide IT and the citywide. Okay, so all I'm looking for is to find out what I'm voting on. So the restoration has dropped as well. I noticed that we haven't budgeted there on 52,502. Okay, I pretty much the highway fund, if you flip a couple pages over to 202, 6002, and that would be line item 52404, account number 52404. We said new equipment and fixtures. In 14 and 15, there was 0 for both 14 and 15 budget for new equipment and fixtures for state highway. Why do we have 50 grand on each of those? Do you foresee something in the state highway?
206 is our street improvement fund, and past administration financed a lot of our new equipment and fixtures for our snow plows and things out of the 206. So I'm just taking state money to buy pieces, parts for our snow plows, our buildings, things that can be funded here instead of the money that I want to put on new pavement. So I've just shuffled where we were paying things from to make better use of our levy money,
Okay, so that levy money.
our income tax money for the streets, I
Okay.
mean.
So you're putting back into this state highway.
Instead of spending money on trucks, I'm spending it on pavement.
Okay. And therefore, you're using the general fund to pull for the equipment.
That's
fixture.
not general fund, that's street MR and permissive, that's tax money we get from gasoline and other things. That's a 20 something account.
the
That's
202?
not general fund.
So 202 is coming from.
That's coming from other revenue,
Okay.
other sources.
So you're just splitting the difference of where you're putting the levy that we have
Just
on
better
the
making
books.
use of some of the dollars
So
we're
could
getting from
you,
other
yeah, maybe I
places.
need some clarification on that, if you would, Mr. Auditor.
No, this is coming from like gasoline tax and other like license plate fees. The income tax levy goes to the general fund and the street improvement fund. That's where it's split.
Okay.
So it goes into, general fund. We split it every year.
Mm-hmm.
You actually do that when we do the budget. We
Right.
decide what the percentages are. I think this year it's 1585. I think
Yes,
Yeah.
it was 15%
And
one
then-
way and 85.
part of it goes into the street improvement fund, or the street maintenance fund, which is,
That's where I'm gonna ask next.
that's the 201 account.
201. So 201 is the
Street maintenance.
street maintenance, is
Yeah.
the street fund. And that
That's where-
percentage.
That's where the income tax is split into those two.
So where's state highway come from, the 202?
Different
That comes
sources,
from other
gasoline.
sources like
Okay.
gasoline tax, license plate fees.
So
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt them.
no, this is helpful, because this helps me to understand why the numbers are changing drastically from different counts, and I'm just trying to figure out why we're seeing an increase or decrease and what we're using it for. All right, so that does help answer why state highway has gone from 0 to 50.
Well, you asked that same question 0 to 50 last year, and it's the same from last year to this year. I mean, it's 50,000 last year, it's 50,000 this year. And I used that 50,000 last year for partial purchase of one of our trucks.
So we're gonna do a partial purchase again of another truck?
Probably snowplow parts and other things that we might need. Instead of taking it out of the 206 account, we need that money there to buy new equipment and fixtures.
And I understood that for 16, but for 17, I also see new equipment and fixtures, so I'm just trying to figure out what you foresee for
Pieces,
another
parts
50
for the
grand.
snow plows, tires,
Okay,
anything that we can buy with that account that we need.
all right. The, you clarified the parks and pools, so that made sense there. Flipping the page over to Office on Aging, no, I took care of that with the auditor. Continuing on to, just to clarify, I want to make sure I understand. The fiber apparatus, was that grant? Is that why it was at 500 and 216? Was that part of that grant for oxygen?
I don't know what
Safety
line item
equipment.
you at?
And that would be 240, 1,005, 52, 501 capital outlay.
That was a fire truck you purchased last year.
Okay, just confirming that that's what it was. And then cable television. And I did ask quite a few questions on this last year, and I got them again. So here we go. We have, last year I believe, or the last few years, we've paid for salary of, if I understand, the cable television director, because I don't know the proper title. We paid him out of contracts and professional services. Now it looks like we've taken on a part-time employee under cable television.
Nope, I explained that when I talked earlier, that we're gonna develop an IT position. We're gonna finance it through salaries and wages with our new IT person if we hire him the first of the year.
All right, well,
So we need to develop a salary and wage line for that position.
and it'll be under cable television. Okay,
And
you
then-
went through that pretty fast, so I want to make sure that I got that. So that's what you're expecting for a part-time for the IT?
That's half a year. And, you know, it's a partial. It says full, but that's probably just an oversight.
Okay. So that's a partial.
Yes.
So you're expecting 3 months, 25 to cover 3 months? So it'd be $100,000.
It's partial.
No,
I didn't say it's half, I said it's partial.
Yeah, sometimes partial means a little bit longer than that, because if you actually go back to look at like the police or the fire,
Mm-hmm.
our partial is 65, the total was 100, so that's longer than 3 months, so don't take
Yep.
25 and divide by 3.
That was a question that I wanted to make sure was clear. In some
Most of these
cases,
numbers are, I mean,
At
when
minimum?
we budgeted, we were trying to get as much into it as we could, not knowing what the carryover's gonna be.
at least to cover that 3 months though.
Yeah.
Great, perfect,
Minimum was 3 months, most of it is 6 months, if not
Perfect.
longer.
perfect.
Excuse me, Mr. Miller, which line are you talking?
That would be 250, 7050, 52111, salaries and wages under cable television. I don't have page numbers, or I give you a page number, I
No,
apologize.
that's all right, that's fine, as long as you give.
So cable television, first line, salaries and wages, I'm just trying to get an idea of what we're looking at there. So we have citywide IT, now that's going to be a capital outlay, equipment, what is that?
It used to come from capital outlay. If you notice, the capital outlay is $492,000 last year, and I reduced it to $50,000. So I'm just dedicating $100,000 towards citywide IT, new computers, anything towards the fiber optic network, telephones. And this is, again, only partial. I mean, that's gonna jump probably next year. There's an F there, but more than likely that'll change. That number will probably grow in the final budget.
So partial, so it's, okay, so it's looking at partial, and that's all equipment capital, that's capital expenses, not wages, salary, none of that, okay.
Anything IT related
Right.
that we need to buy.
So it's just for this, bringing up to speed our IT?
Absolutely.
Okay, so capital outlay in this case is not facility, that's why you have 2 line items different. Okay, fantastic. And that $500,000 that was budgeted for 2016 was more based on the fiber, thoughts of moving fiber?
And we're only gonna probably do a small portion of that project. Next 2 weeks from now, you'll probably see an item taking some money from that $492,000.
All right, and then auditorium restoration. For 014, 015, we had $125K put into that
What
budget.
line number are you talking?
Sorry, thank you. Auditorium restoration, sorry, Madam Chair. 454, 7060, 52501 under auditorium restoration capital outlay. For 14, 15, we budgeted 125 and 95, and I think it may have came in close, but I didn't get the final on that. but now we're at 20, 10 and then 20. And I'm wondering, there's a lot of upgrades, there's a lot of maintenance, and I'm trying to discern what is.
That was on
auditorium
purpose. I knew that
restoration,
as
what's-
first year as being mayor, I knew there was gonna be a lot on my plate, and I could have spent as much money as I had in that account, because I'm really passionate about probably restoring that someday, so I purposely put the minimum that would maintain that upstairs auditorium last year, so I wouldn't be tempted to dive into that. Next year, I think we've got one more year of just maintaining, but I've upped it a little bit, even put a little bit of contracts and fees in there in case we get an architect to start to look at it. But I can see ourselves spending $20,000 just doing some more small upgrades next year.
Thank you, I appreciate the explanation. Well, the last thing I have was sewer. There was, I believe, one of the last, we're getting there. The sewer, that would be account 610, 5003, and then it said capital outlay 52501. We had this past year, it was 216, and then budgeted for this year over a $500,000 on 16, and then a $500,000 budgeted for 17. 214, 215, we had 150K each. Is there something more that we've got coming down the road when it comes to
There's a lot of sewer repairs that we need, and I want it, it's in the fund balance, so I want it there in case something really happens that we need to do some major sewer renovations. We did several projects this year. We didn't cut into it as much as I thought we might need to. We did purchase one vehicle out of that account for the sewer department. So that money's there in case we need it. It just carries over to the next year if we don't.
So sewer got another vehicle?
A truck, just a two-wheel drive service vehicle, pickup truck.
And now is part of that turnpike grant that was given to put
That's
that?
stormwater.
That's
not-
stormwater,
that's
thank
not-
you. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't where that was being pulled from, so thank you on that. And that's under storm, okay. Flipping the page over to electric department, 620, 5001. Are we looking at our capital outlay, and that's 52,501? Are we looking to finally finish that three-phase electric project? Is that why that's dropped tremendously from our, I believe it was 1.9?
That money's will finish paying for that project
Okay,
that you're
so
talking
that,
about.
yeah, that 3-year project that we had, and that was 1912.
And again, that's a
114.
final, that number could change once we know more what we want to do next year.
I know we're getting a truck, I just wasn't sure if we had more down the road lines and servicing that may be coming up. I didn't know if that number was lower or accurate.
Kept it there just because I knew we spent a lot of money the last couple of years. Once we know where we are with the fund balance, that could come up and there could be more projects in line here. I don't think we'll ever be done upgrading our electric system. There's always something we can do to make it better.
Well, once again, I appreciate yours and the auditors' clear explanations on these. I appreciate your patience. You guys deal with this budget every day, probably day in, day out, and I thank you for your explanations. They're clear, and I think that myself and those who are watching got a good idea as to why the changes are there. Madam Chair, I'd like to turn it back over to the floor. Thank you again for the time.
Mr. Van Truren.
Very quickly, Mr. Mayor, a little earlier, you made the comment that you haven't decided yet whether you're going to take the mileage reimbursement. I would politely encourage you to take it, not because I am worried about your finances, but because of the precedence it's going to set. I think it's great that Mayor Taylor didn't take it, that he didn't take health insurance, but many of us up here have discussed how we want to try to make the mayor's seat a little bit more attractive to qualified candidates in the decades to come, and that's part of the compensation for the job. And I think it'd be difficult for a new mayor in the future if his predecessor never took mileage reimbursement.
Thank you.
And I think that, it's up to you.
I appreciate
whether you take
that.
it or not. Take it and donate it to charity if you want. But I think setting the precedence of actually taking all the benefits of the job will make it easier to attract qualified candidates in the decades to come.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van Truren.
I'd agree with you.
Mr. Jen.
A couple questions in relation to park and pool. Can you just explain to me for phone usage, the 2,900 amount for this year in relation to, just wondering seasonally, how long that line is used, or is that for?
Well, there's a couple cell phones. There's internet service. We have the Beaver Creek building that has a phone, internet, and all that.
Okay,
you know, and the pool has
Wi-Fi,
internet,
is that-
Wi-Fi during the summer,
okay.
so there's quite a bit of phone between the two complexes.
And the public, it can use that Wi-Fi in those
Yep.
situations? Okay. And the other question I had was on the Community Improvement Center.
That's actually, I think, Community Improvement Corporation, it's a CIC.
The
So I
CIC.
think that must be a misprint, I just
Okay.
noticed that today.
All right, thank
That,
you.
that's, we've used it several times.
Yep, thank you. No further questions.
So, I mean, should we make a motion, can we just change that to CI?
I'll have one just change.
I mean, we can just change that and send it with the proper heading.
Those sound like, so it sounds like there's some proofreading things that need to be
It's just
made.
typos, right? Just typos.
And I don't, Mr. Goodell,
Make motion to pass this on to the floor council.
with the emergency.
Do- do
Emergency.
emergency.
Mr. Ventura,
Second that.
Is that just to pass it, or is
With emergency.
any comments or questions?
It's not.
for the-
Right.
Seeing none, we have a motion to take A 16-49 to the floor of council with the emergency clause. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion is carried, 7-0. Mr. Miller.
Madam Chair, I'm gonna do something outside of protocol here, but since we don't have a meeting, I just wanted to quickly ask if I can once again announce to the public that Friday, we're gonna have the Veterans Memorial ceremony will be out at the Arabica parking lot there, our citywide parking lot, and on the building, the third mural will be on, technically, let's say, what's the word I'm looking for?
Unveiled?
Yeah, unveiled. That's probably a good word for it. I'm
And the
losing.
time?
It's a fourth one.
Did I say third one? Sorry.
It's a
fourth mural. And the time, I believe, is 11:11.
11:11 o'clock.
Since we were all celebrating what used to be our Mista Day at 11:11.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller. Any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Goodell,
Make a motion to adjourn, please.
motion to adjourn. Mr. Winarski.
Second.
Second, the motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Yeah, like apples,
Motion carries 7-0.
How you
We are
like that?
adjourned at
Sorry.
See you, Dave.
7:59.
Jennifer gave us some extra time.
Oh,
The boys.